everyone. So today we are talking about unmasking the parenthood myth when it comes to being a parent and also working and being in business and all of those things. And this was prompted by a post that I had, I want to say a couple weeks ago, where I was talking about my daughter. And so if you didn't see that post, let me tell you what happened. It was my daughter's fifth grade graduation. And on that day, she had been asking me, we were also moving into our brand new office. You can still see I've got like tape on the walls because we're painting. But we're moving into a new office and it'd been crazy. I'd been working a lot of late nights. And the night before her graduation, I realized I hadn't even asked her what she was going to wear, what she was going to do. I hadn't bought her a dress. I just was being a very bad mom at that moment. And it was already late when I got home the night before. So this was a Tuesday night. And she wanted to do her nails and she wanted me to do her hair and she wanted me to do all of these things. And I just kind of flippantly said, baby girl, I will be at your graduation, but I am too busy. I have too much going on. I have to be at work and I don't have time, but I'm sure you'll do a great job with your hair and nails yourself. Mind you, she's in fifth grade. That night I felt horrible about that. I was so upset that I wasn't there for her, that I didn't think about her, what she was doing. And this is obviously a big moment in her life, and I wasn't prioritizing that. So the next day I made a decision that I didn't need to be at the office for one extra meeting. It didn't make a difference. That meeting, when that work would still be there the next day. And so I surprised her by when she woke up the first thing in the morning. I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna spend the whole day with you. Let's go get your nails done. Mommy will do your hair. Let's go find out exactly what you're gonna wear. Let's do all these things. And it was such a great day. And she was so happy and so it was just fun. We just had a lot of fun. And I felt so bad. I felt like, wow, how did I not think about this? How did I not prioritize this? How did I not put this first? How was I even thinking for a moment that it was okay for me to miss this moment in my life, in her life? And these moments don't come back, right? Like these moments are, you don't graduate fifth grade. And I know it's fifth grade graduation. Like I get that. I get that we expect everybody graduates kindergarten and fifth grade. And a lot of these are just vanity moments for parents. I totally understand. But in that moment for my daughter, this was a big deal. And me being present and part of it was also a big deal. And so me thinking that I should prioritize one extra meeting or something else just didn't make sense. And when I made that decision to not do that, I felt much better. She felt much better. And guess what? Nothing broke. Nothing broke. It's not like Builder Genie stopped operating. It's not like we didn't move into an office. It's not like anything broke or anything happened that was devastating. And that moment for me was so critical because I think that we are always faced with these types of decisions. So that's where this idea of talking about parenthood and the myth of parenthood and having it all and what is that? And so we always think and have this idea or ideology of having it all. And what does it mean to have it all? What is that? Is that being the perfect parent? Is that being the best in business and having your career soar? Is that having this amazing social group and doing all of the things? Is it travel? What does it truly mean to have it all? And I think this definition is so skewed by what we see as our inputs. And often we don't take enough time to decide, well, what does it mean to you to have it all? For example, for me, I am not the person who is really good at being at the school all the time and setting up events for the school and for my daughters. And that's just not who I am. But I really enjoy making TikToks with them. I really enjoy going wakeboarding. Like that's what I like, things that are different. And that's what it is for me to have it all, is that it allows me the time to have fun with my children, but also do what makes me happy, which is follow my dreams, follow my ambition, and continue growing and building and becoming stronger, better every day and achieving things. That's on me. That's not anybody else's goals. It doesn't have to do with anyone else. That's me personally. But I think understanding what having it all means, and also looking at the idea of like Instagram versus reality, right? Like we get so caught up in this idea of perfection and what that looks like. So I'll tell you a story that I actually recently read of a woman at a beach. I read this story about a woman at a beach who took a photo of another woman who was taking a very staged photo for Instagram. after with her children. And then after that moment of that photo, the children were saying, hey, come play with me, come do this, come do that. And she's like, no, I'm busy, I'm doing everything else. But in that Instagram world, it looked like this woman had spent all day playing in the beach with her children. And there's nothing wrong with her not doing that. But the Instagram story looked like, hey, this super successful woman who is doing all these things is also spending the entire day being on the beach, playing with their children. And that's what we see, right? Like that's the Instagram that we see. And we say, wow, like I didn't do that. And I didn't spend the whole day playing with my kids. And should I have done that? And are they worse because I didn't? You know, and you think about the traditional models starting in the 1940s, 1950s, and even before, I mean, obviously, but we really romanticize the time around the 40s, 50s, where there was always this stay-at-home homemaker and someone, a parent who went to work, and there was someone whose job it was to just handle the children and handle everything that it was to do that. And now, as society evolves, as we evolve, it's often both parents or a single parent or whoever the caregivers are working, and they also have their careers and they also have things that they need to do. Does it mean that our children are turning out any differently, any worse? I believe that it makes our children stronger because it gets them to see all of the possibilities in life, all of the things that can happen with hard work. It teaches them work ethic. It teaches them discipline. It teaches them all of those things at a very young age because they see that as they're growing. But that doesn't mean the guilt doesn't exist. That doesn't mean that there isn't a moment every single day we're like, man, what am I doing? And should I be doing this instead? And so thinking about where that guilt comes from, what does having it all mean? But also being really serious with yourself that there's a big difference between Instagram versus reality. But here today, I wanted to talk about a few tips and tricks that I use to help kind of balance being a parent and also being a businesswoman. And I can tell you, I am nowhere near perfect at this. Like I said a few weeks ago, there's always a crisis of confidence. There's always a, should I have done this instead moment that exists. I can give you hundreds just from the past 2 weeks. It always happens. And some of you may be thinking, oh my God, you're such a terrible mother. And that's just the way that it is. That is who I am. And I can only do as much as I can do. And I think that that's the same for everybody out there. So here are some tricks of what I do to keep myself a little bit sane. I'm not saying I'm sane, but to keep some sanity in there. The first one is get a village. You need a village. We always say it takes a village to raise a child. And, we think about what a village meant as where this saying came from, get a village. People really lived in villages and they really need each other's help. But even back then, without all of the societal norms that we have today and all the things that we have to do today, even then, people knew that it took a village to raise a child the right way. It takes the inputs from everybody. It takes that help, everything from, cooking, cleaning, taking them someplace, making sure that they are happy, their mental health. It takes a village. Know that. Be okay with that. You don't have to be everything. You do not have to be a one-man show, or one-woman show, or one-person show. You don't have to be. There's so much that we put upon ourselves. I don't know about you, but who's ever Pinterested for a kid's birthday and been like, man, I'm going to do this. And then all you've done is spent 4 hours making a party favor that a child is going to play with for 3 seconds and probably throw away. And in your head, that was the most important thing you need to do. And you just spent 4 hours crafting that. And it really wasn't even that important. And so we put a lot of this responsibility, this pressure on ourselves that we have to do it all. We have to be all of these things. And if we aren't, are we good enough? Understand that it takes a village. And, there's a great kind of table that talks about like the items that you should prioritize. And so what you should do and defer and delegate. Let's have that brought up. There's this image that says, and I'm sure you guys have seen this. I've talked a lot about this in time management, but delegate something that doesn't depend on you. It doesn't depend. It's urgent, but it's unimportant, but it's urgent, but it doesn't depend on you. So like if my kids need to be taken somewhere or dropped off somewhere, anyone who can drive can do that. It doesn't require my skill set to drive someone from one place to another. It is urgent because it has to happen before practice starts, but it is not something that requires my specific skill set. Delete. I don't need to make hundreds of party favors for a party that no one's going to care about. It's not urgent. It's not important. No one's going to care. It's not going to fill my cup. It's not going to fill their cup. So get rid of it. Defer, right? Think about doing things later. It's okay to say that I can't do this today and we wanted to do something, but we're going to make a plan. Work with your children on this. Defer things that you can't delegate. And the things that you should be doing are things that are urgent and important, and they take your specific skill set, your parenting, your need to be there, right? So I think that this is a really important graphic. It's something we use all the time for business, but I think even using it when it comes to parenting is important. Delegate the things that aren't important, that you can. Anything you can, delegate those. And use your friend group, use your social network. Hey, I'll do pickup this time, you do pickup there, you handle this, right? Like that's why you need a village. And also those inputs are so good for your children to hear from other people. But, we talk about this idea of like what's important, these priorities. And the funniest thing is we make all these decisions, at least for me, and we often don't even ask our children, like, hey, what do you want? What's the most important for you? If I can only choose to do one of these things or one of these 4 things I know you want me to do with you, which one is the most important? By doing that and having those conversations, it also teaches them the value and prioritization that you're having to do. And they're going to have to do that the rest of their lives. We do this every day, all day. We're always thinking, what's the most important? What can I get done? How can I get it done? How do I prioritize? So putting your kids in the driver's seat to say, hey, these are the 4 things you want to do. I get it, but we can only do one. So what would you like that to be? And in that moment, I will be present for you. That's one I like to use quite often. Another thing is that setting boundaries. So setting boundaries that are clear for yourself, for your family, and for your work. So I learned this many, many years ago, actually long before I was a parent, that a lot of, especially women in the workplace, were not very honest with what they needed to do with their time. Because if they said that, oh, I need to leave early to pick up my child, or I need to go to this thing, that was sometimes frowned upon. Whereas often male counterparts were able to say things like, oh, I'm going to go to their Christmas show. And it was met with oh, that's so sweet. I'm so glad that you're going. And I think that has become a little bit more pervasive. And in seeing that in the workplace, I think it's important to set those boundaries and be honest with them. So saying, hey, I'm going to go to this with my child because it's something that I want to do is important. And being honest about that, again, in your workplace, but also what time is yours. So for example, for me, in terms of the way that I delegate, I know that the time from car line, which is like 2:00 until 6:00, really, whoever's being my child's caretaker is acting like a taxi driver. They're taking them from activity to activity. They're really just sitting in the car for hours on end, getting them to places. That is not where I prioritize my time with my children, because in reality, no one's spending any time with them. You're just getting them from one place to another. But the moment that they get home, their homework, their reading before bed, their conversation about their day, that's my priority. For me, I want to be there for those moments. And that may mean that I need to be home every day at 6:00, and from 6 to 8, I'm doing that and I'm present for those moments. But at 8:00, I can get back on and do what I need to, because you know what? I really enjoy working. I love it. I thrive on it. It makes me happy. And so it's not about saying, oh, work less, hard work, any of that. If you want to, that's fine. But setting those boundaries in a work situation to say, hey, this is my time. This is what I'm going to be doing during these hours. And nothing else matters, because in reality, it doesn't. Your work will always be there. Business will always be there. Nothing is going to break. So spend the time, set your priorities, find things that you can delegate, and, understand that we all have guilt. No one's doing it perfectly. Kids don't come with a manual. And I think that we're going to all figure it out, and they're all going to be fine for it. So anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, and thank you so much for joining me. Thanks. Bye.